Okie dokie. It's pretty much bang on 2 o'clock on British summer time, so we should make a start. Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us on this latest webinar series from Somerford Associates and from Splunk. Very much focused on Splunk's synthetics capability, which sits within the Splunk Observability stack. Today you've got myself, James Astley, the Solutions Director at Somerford Associates, and you've also got Arthur from Splunk, who's one of the subject matter experts within Splunk Synthetics, and is going to be giving us some more details on the solution capability, some of the challenges it can resolve, and also taking us through a bit of a demonstration into a bit more detail as to what the GUI looks like and what it looks like from a user point of view. If we can go through to the next slide, please. So just as a bit of a further introduction for those who don't know who Somerford are, I know for some people on the call today you will know, but Somerford is an elite partner of Splunk, and we have been an elite partner since 2010. We are hugely focused around user enablement and actually how you adopt technology, and more importantly around the Splunk piece. And we also operate a dedicated in-house Splunk support desk. Our dedicated in-house support desk has Splunk certified consultants, engineers, and architects, and we actually remediate 95% of Splunk support issues through ourselves before or actually needing further escalation. We were the largest certified Splunk delivery team in EMEA, with both SC and DV cleared consultants. So for those working within the public sector, that is a clear requirement. We can absolutely help you there. And we have a very well-rehearsed project and customer methodology about how to actually implement and drive adoption through the Splunk platform. And finally, we also have a dedicated business value consultancy team. They sit externally to the commercial team, and they're very much focused on how do you drive further value from your investments, and actually looking at where there may be potential interoperability opportunities for you as well. And just in the bottom there, you'll see that authorized reseller at elite level. We are professional services provider at elite level, and we're also a professional services practitioner as well. Next slide, please. Finally, last bit for me before I pass across after we get into the actual meat of the session today. From a Somerford perspective, we try and move with our customers' requirements, but also the market trends and how things are evolving and changing over time. So for us, it's highly important that we have a dedicated DevOps practice in-house, with a host of different DevOps technologies that play and sit very nicely alongside Splunk and the observability stack. We recognize that more and more organizations, and both our prospects and customers, are moving to a hybrid or multi-cloud environment. So we need the solutions and the resources to support them. And that's a really core focus for us. I briefly touched on it a second ago, but also it's no longer acceptable just to have the ability to deliver one technology. We need to understand how technology works together, how it can work within an organization, and how you can really leverage interoperability to both reduce costs, drive better optimization, but ultimately just value. That's a key fundamental where we see ourselves fitting and how we work with our businesses. And finally, more and more businesses either have come from a digital native background, but actually we see a lot of organizations, and we work with a lot of organizations, making that transition into the cloud, moving away from legacy systems and applications, and that migration process, and what can actually be very challenging. We do a lot of work with supporting organizations to be able to achieve that. And that all builds back into our DevSecOps practice, and that is very much the core focus of Somerford. So I'd like to pass across now to Arthur, who's going to go into a bit more detail around the Splunk Observability stack and where synthetics plays. And if you've got any questions, please do fire them into the questions box. I'll be able to pick them up, and at the end we have got about 5-10 minutes where I'll be able to pick up your questions and hopefully ask them for you. Without further ado, let me pass across.
So I'm based in Paris, and working together with the Somerford Associates clients and around the EMEA, I'm helping our clients to improve, measure the performance of their website and online application. Next slide, please. The reason we're doing that is because there's a huge impact of the web performance on any company's business. we now say that slow is a new down. It's not sufficient to be available 100%. You really need to provide to your users a decent experience and a level of experience that should be at the level of what they're expecting, because before browsing your online site or your website, they are checking their emails, their accounts online, so they're expecting a certain level of performance. So many studies have been evaluating the impact of this performance. For example, 3 seconds, it's estimated that you're going to lose over 40% of your visitors or clients if your first page it lasts more than 3 seconds to load. And a huge part of the web performance is on the front end side. So the challenge here is to identify, resolve, and measure the equation between this web performance and the business you're running. So think in terms of online sales. If you go in a shop and the performance, you're not attended properly, your tendency to buy is not going to be very high. So we have many studies around, like the one that was done by Walmart, about the 100 milliseconds impact on their revenue. But you would have exactly the same for any kind of business. Imagine the cost of not being able to perform a transaction online if you are a public service or a university. You would have people calling you, or maybe even worse, writing a letter to you. Imagine the cost of this transaction not being done online. So this is the kind of challenges that at Splunk with Somerford we have decided to tackle, building together this offer of monitoring. Next slide, please. The Splunk data platform is the basis of this offer. And today we're going to focus on the digital experience monitoring aspect of it. Next, please. And more precisely, the synthetic monitoring side of the solution. Synthetic monitoring, that is also sometimes called active monitoring, is a technology of robots or probes that are running in over 50 countries around the world, like a mystery visitor or mystery shopper. They are accessing any given website or online application to see not only if the application is available, but also if it performs, as I said before, at the expected level of performance in terms of showing up the content, images, video, whatever, and providing a good level of experience. Next slide, please. But let's go more in depth with what this solution exactly is with a short demo. As I said, synthetic monitoring is a technology based upon these robots that are running around the world and are taking measurements on a given website at a recurring frequency. Let's jump into the example of this website, interestingly selling cleansing items. And this is the platform. So what you see here is the synthetic monitoring platform with the different tests. Let's jump in the setting of this test. So starting by the home page, exactly like a client would do, we are going to browse the different steps it requires to buy an item on this website. Here we're talking about an example of e-commerce, but that will be exactly the same for any online application, whether it's checking your online accounts or using a SaaS application online. That will be exactly the same multi-step process, starting with the home page and then doing anything a user would do. That's clicking on a button, adding your password, execute or expecting a content to appear on the screen, or expecting a content to not appear, like this website is in maintenance, for example. We're going to do exactly what a user, a client, an employee would do by running a script that is recorded with a Selenium ID recorder. Then importing this script or doing the script directly within this easy-to-use interface. Now, we also want to be able to mimic not only a desktop, but a mobile eventually, and also play with the network throttling setup. Reason for this is a poor connectivity might result in a bad way for the application to work. So we're going to play with this setup in order to be, like, as I said, a mystery shopper or mystery user on your website. If this website is not performing as you expect, obviously you'd like to know it and receive alerts. So after selecting all the appropriate locations from where your real users are going to connect, since I had a little glitch with the connection. So selecting a list of locations around the world, we are just like a user decide on the frequency of the visit, which is going to determine the level of granularity that you want for this monitoring. You may want to stop the measurements at night when there's no users. So you'd select some blackout periods, and then you'd select at which address or with which mode you'd like to be alerted if the website is going slower than expected with this kind of settings. Setting here the number of consecutive errors after which you want to receive an alert, but also being able to handle here some escalation roles, like if the website is or the application is down after a certain time, you want not only to receive the first level of alert, but make sure that there is a second an escalation that is done by the solution. This setup is done within the solution. It can be used as a standalone solution, fully operational, full SaaS mode, but you may also want to use integration in third party, like obviously the Splunk data platform, where you would retrieve all the alerts and events that are generated by the monitoring. Now, I've mentioned the example of a real browser check, which is exactly what the user would do, the user journey that we are monitoring. You may also want to check APIs. APIs are used for running a lot of native application. So let's jump into this example of a Spotify search. If you listen music with the Spotify native application and you're looking for an artist, this is actually a script running APIs that goes beneath that in the application. Let me share with you what this looks like. So an API check will be requesting the API, having an authentication being done, and then running a multi-step API from the native application to reach the artist that you want to listen to. So multi-step API check. And you may want to test only very basic functionalities or just a single page. So we have here a more simple, easy to use uptime check, where you will be accessing just one page without the scenario. So the concept will be to run uptime and API at the high level of frequency and run the real browser check at say 5 minutes to 15 minutes frequency from, as I said, all the countries where your real users are located. But besides the technical information that we're going to get, you're going to also be able to share some more actionable items on information. Here we are gathering all the modern metrics of monitoring, not only the aggregated KPIs such as the spin index, but also the modern KPIs like the core web vitals, that Google is pushing a lot to the market. The total blocking time, SCP, CLS. And also we are capturing for every test that is being done, a screenshot of what's happening for the user. So imagine you're launching your tests for your application for the Japanese market. You'd be able to use the Splunk Synthetic Monitoring probe in Japan and take some measurements before you even have some clients accessing your application. And also see exactly what it means to load the content in 10 seconds or 15 seconds from Japan. So from the UK, you'd see exactly what the Japanese client would see. And we're taking screenshots of whatever is happening when this script is running. Even a video. The purpose is to be able to share not only technical IT-oriented KPIs and values, but also to help building a culture of performance with information and this content that you can share with business teams, for example. So what we see here is the scenario that is playing with step by step exactly what a user would do to select an item, add to basket, and go to the checkout. So a quick recap on what we've been doing here with this synthetic monitoring scenario. We've been testing from this home page every 30 minutes from a list of cities where the users are, a scenario, a typical e-commerce scenario, where you go to the website, add a product to basket, and go to checkout with a setup that is equivalent to a user connecting from a desktop and with an average connection quality level. Now, let's go back to the details of the test. So we see here is a different step, functional test. And let's check one of them. You will also find the waterfall analysis with this graphic where you see all the elements loading one after the other. And what you see here is an interesting item because you see that this image is loading very fast. So that's exactly what we were seeing before. You have the content loading element after element, except this image that is quite heavy and not loading at the expected speed, and probably a source of optimization. When it comes to optimizing the optimization, we're going to jump to the other side of the platform, where you want to not only get this recurring tests, recurring checks, but also see where to focus your attention to improve the experience of your user. So we have gathered over 300 best practices that are all used to evaluate the performance of a given website, whether it's the CDN, whether it's the quality of the images and contents, or the certificates. We are calculating a best practice score based upon this over 300, as I said, best practices. We are also capturing the Lighthouse performance score, which is the methodology used by Google now that is impacting the SEO ranking results. So a lot of attention from digital teams, web marketing teams these days, thanks to this Lighthouse performance score and the fact that Google has been pushing a lot technical KPIs of web performance in the algorithm that is now used for the search ranking results. Let's dig a bit more into this. The purpose here is to not just provide data, as I said, and KPIs and technical data, but also be like a consultant in the box, able to identify opportunities for improvements, whether they belong to the developer, designer, IT ops, and identify quickly and get some actionable information of where the effort should be put to improve the experience of your user. So let's take this example. Let's jump into this image savings. So we are ranking here the different images, and we're seeing that a lot of them could be optimized. Let's pick one of these, and they are classified by priority, so you know where to start with. So again, not only KPIs are provided, but also what will be the outcome of improving the type of image. So in this case, we are providing, this is the image as it is on the website. And here we are providing the WebP image in an optimized format that can be directly, that could be directly injected in the website. And while there may be different ways to measure websites, what the solution brings is also a very easy to use approach tool. So you can, for example, in this case, use little tricks like sharing the link to this page without the need of a user and password to the Splunk monitoring platform. You can share this link, and the web agency or the teams, the department in charge of the contents, images of this site could directly click on the link and see exactly this analysis and this content to work faster and improve every and use every possible optimization here. Also, a very useful, a very common and useful use case, you want to evaluate the impact of the different releases. In this case, I took an example with a website that has been updated from one check to the other, and we see very quickly what is the impact in terms of performance from one version to the other. So it's not just about the what appears for the users, but also about the optimization that has been done on the website. It's a bit heavier, but the performance is actually better. So that's interesting. Just by optimizing the images and the content and the weight loads, you can improve the experience of your user and very quickly see the impact these optimization have for the users. And let me share another challenge our clients are facing on a daily basis. Any given website nowadays has between 15 to 25 third-party, like the usual trackers, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, whatever traffic analytics you may have. And in this example, what we're seeing is the list of JavaScript. And the interesting thing is that whether your website is performing, even if your website is performing well, you may be impacted by one of these third-party contents. If you're doing A/B testing, then you have a JavaScript on your web page. And if the A/B testing provider has a technical issue, a technical glitch, and we know that can happen sometimes, that will directly impact the experience of your clients and users. So we are classifying, listing here the different third-party contents, so you can very quickly see the ones that are performing correctly and the ones that might impact your user. So when it comes to internally review what should be included in the website or what providers are having a bad impact on your client's experience, we have here a very easy to read ranking. And again, it's very easy to share this information with your agency or provider to tell them exactly where the issue is coming from. Again, it's not just about having a website that is performing correctly. It's also making sure that all the components of your website are performing correctly. And we are measuring from these locations around the world where your users are without the need of traveling there. And from the comfort of your UK office, you can see exactly what's experienced by the clients and users of your application. And that's it for this short and quick demo. Do we have some questions, James?
Yes, we do. We've got quite a few. So I'm glad we've got a few minutes left over at the end here to go through them. Let me just pull up the first one. So the first one is notification just by email or text, or can this be integrated with an ITSM or event management tool? Either?
Excellent question. So our preferred method or preferred tool to integrate the alerting will be Splunk on call. But you have many native applications like PagerDuty or different providers on the market that are natively integrated or integrating the solution here.
Fantastic. The next question we had is regarding to scripting being done by recording, or no need to write scripts. So as an end business user, so can end business users create their own scripts? Or is there no need for writing scripts?
Users create? So that's a good question. One of the important aspect of Splunk positioning is we follow and we are the prime contributor to the open telemetry standard. We acknowledge that our clients are going to use not just our solution, but they might have several editor solutions coexisting within their IT. So we decided to keep an open source recorder, which is Selenium IDE. So we can, our users can use this solution open source to script. And this is a very common and very commonly used solution. So it's often easier to use this open solution than it would be for a private and specific recorder. And also the script can be used. So it's fairly user-friendly. Then you can import the script, and then a business user will be able to access directly the script with the different steps I was showing before, and quite easily they will change or update the scripts.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Next question we had was, can synthetic monitoring solution test internet accessible only applications?
Yes, and that's one I had prepared. That's a more and more common use case we're having. And we use a feature that is called private location. So you have as a user, the capacity to have a Docker image where you will that you would use to run within your network or in any given data center to set your own robots and run the test from within your network. So yes, we have a lot of use case where it's not a client, mystery client, but rather a mystery employee and their ability to connect to any given to the intranet or any given resources. A very popular use case is building SLAs with a third-party SaaS provider, and you want to make sure that it does not only work from the internet, but it works from your network. So that would make the diagnosis in case of issues way faster, because you would see exactly if the intranet users have been impacted as opposed to internet users, and then be able to use this data also to track the performance delivered by your SaaS provider.
Fantastic. That's really helpful. I've got another one here that I think builds upon an area that you did touch on briefly, Arthur, but just in a bit more detail, just looking for what are the use cases of the web optimization tests?
Good question. So interestingly, at Splunk, we are very familiar with monitoring, but rather IT monitoring. And this opens the solution of Splunk to the web performance world. As I was saying during the presentation, web marketing, SEO teams, digital teams were focusing on the UX experience from a real marketing angle. And what we bring now with web optimization is the capacity to answer their question about these KPIs that are directly impacting now the ranking. So web optimization is a great fit for web performance tools, teams, digital teams, and it's a good way to have these teams talking together with the IT teams, IT ops teams. And we see that more and more there is a convergence between the digital and IT teams using this kind of shared products.
That's all the questions that have come through, but obviously if people do have more questions after this session today, please do feel free to reach out to Somerford and Splunk. If you ask myself, but you can find all our details on the website. It may just be very quickly, we've got a couple minutes left. I don't know if we can just quickly go back to the slide deck, just to bring up the FTS slide very quickly. Apologies, there is lag on my screen, so if someone can let me know when that slide has popped up.
Yeah, thank you very much, James, for bringing this. I think there's a really powerful solution and way for users now to handle their need for observability. And what you've been building together with us here is really interesting in order to, in just 4 weeks, get a full visibility on observability on performance. That's really great. And I think there's one question that has not been asked. Is yes. Yes, James?
No, up to you. Sorry, Karen.
I was just saying that there's maybe just one question that has not been asked is it possible to have a scan on your website? So yes, you contact the Somerford associate team, and that's something we'll be very happy to run for you.
Yes, absolutely. So very, very happy to run those scans for you so you can get a sample report and understand how that looks using the Splunk Synthetics capability. And just to finish off there on the screen there, you've got the fast track Splunk, which are the packs have been created by Somerford Associates in conjunction with Splunk, and how we can drive quick value through the observability stack. I'm also very happy to announce that in the coming weeks, there'll also be an FTS digital pillar as well, which is completely focused around the implementation, enablement, and adoption of the Splunk Synthetic solution. So we're really excited about that, and keep an eye out. That'll be coming out very shortly. But it all sits within our Fast Track Splunk service, which you can see on our website. There is a dedicated page, and it covers each of the Splunk solution areas. I think that's everything for today. A really informative session, and thank you for so many of you being able to join us. It's great to see so many people participating and some fantastic questions. I said again, if there are any further questions, do please feel free to reach out to us, and we can get you linked in with your dedicated account managers, and hopefully allow you to unlock the value within the Splunk observability stack. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Arthur.
Thank you very much. Bye.